Here we go with round 2. We won the die roll and we are going to play first. The early game tempo is something that our deck is lacking, so I definitely want to be on the play. We also have more than enough mana sources, so no reason to draw first. We see a Prophetic Prism and a very nice mana base. Definitely not mulliganing this. And of course, this hand is going to give us a lot of opportunities to kill early creatures, gain some value, and hopefully progress towards the late game. So any one toughness creature is going to die very quickly. Bloodthorn Vampire is kind of an interesting card because it's difficult to punish the Bloodthorn. Well, we can't really gain value by playing Forked Bolt on Bloodthorn Vampire and another creature. Same goes for Velget Scorpion, and Spawning Breath is going to fizzle because our opponent can just sacrifice the vampire. Still, it's probably just correct to... excuse me. It's probably just correct to use the Spawning Breath here. It's not going to get much better. I want to keep the Forked Bolt. And Bloodthorn Vampire has the potential to just turn into a threat very easily. So let's just get rid of that. And it's even possible that our opponent f6 here, which doesn't seem to be the case. Yep, so we don't get an Eldrazi spawn, but I think we can live with that. No 3-drop, that's very good for us. And we just have this very sweet hand and 4 different types of basic lands on turn 4. Opponent kept an interesting hand. Turn 2 Bloodthorn Vampire is fine, but not having a follow-up means that either the vampire shouldn't be in his deck or something else did go wrong. Ogre's Cleaver could be pretty good against us, but let's hope that with the hand we have, things are going to be over more quickly. Oh wow. Spawning Breath targeting us. Yep. That's an interesting use of a card. I mean, if you have your Ogre's Cleaver, then anything is possible, I guess. Maybe he wants the mana, but I would assume that this is going to happen. So now we actually don't have an instant way to interact with that. We do have Valakut Firebore, so if we can draw a land... No. Totemguide Heartbeast, also insane. Now, which of these ways to deal with the spawn do we want to use? Probably the Forked Bolt. We definitely don't want to take too much damage here. It's kind of weird, but in a certain way we traded the Forked Bolt for the Spawning Breath. But our opponent also got to deal 5 to us, so Ogre's Cleaver definitely a good card against us, no question about that. Pawn of Ulamog or another non-token creature you control, then there's more spawns in the near future, good to know. So here we have the option to just slam down Totemguide Heartbeast, which is definitely going to be able to block. Blocking Pawn of Ulamog gives him another spawn token, which is something to consider. We don't want to block with Valakut Firebore because it would just die. I also don't think I want to use a removal spell on the pawn, so let's just see if we can fetch out something here. The alternative would probably be to get another Narcolepsy, but Splinter Twin is just too powerful not to get here. We could even consider not blocking the Pawn of Ulamog, because if we untap and have the mana to Splinter Twin the Heartbeast, then things are looking really good for us. But let's see what happens first. I don't know if we want to go down to 7 life. And we only have one more aura to get. Okay, I have 6 here, but Corpse Hedged dealt with our Heart Beast. So now we are just taking 2, and our opponent has some more Eldrazi spawn at his disposal. We are pretty close to Eldrazi conscription mana, so that's important. We can also Balaget Scorpion and Eldrazi spawn and oust the pawn of Ulamog, so that our opponent has only 1 spawn left, which he can equip with a cleaver. It's still a pretty relevant card then. On the other hand, Valakut Firebore blocks equipped spawns all day, so I like that better, yeah. And this looks like a good time to oust. Opponent looks to be, or might be, out of gas. And we have now have a way to block the Eldrazi spawn or stop anything that our opponent could have. And at a later stage, it's probably irrelevant. Okay, that's also interesting. No equip with the cleaver. Could also mean that the Valakut Firebore is in danger if should we decide to attack. We can Mnemonic Wall back, oust, or even Forked Bolt, which seems pretty insane, and then we can Splinter Twin. So I'm going to play Mnemonic Wall here. I have a feeling that we shouldn't attack with the Firebore, because I have a bad feeling about this. It could be a Stagger Shock, for example. But even then, I don't understand why our opponent didn't equip. So why did he want to have all that mana available to him? Like I said, I don't really know, but I also don't really want to find out. If our opponent passes here without a play, then I'm also happy about it. So clearly our plan is to put Splinter Twin on Mnemonic Wall. But if that doesn't resolve, kind of a sad moment. We do have 7 mana now. And our opponent is keeping up mana, so there is something waiting for us, but I think we have no other choice as to just see what it is, basically. There aren't that many ways to deal with a 4 toughness creature, but our opponent has one of them. It's a Heat Ray, but that's okay. Like I said, I'm not too worried here. I'm going to Narcolepsy that because it is a pretty good value card for our opponent. At some point we want to cast Eldrazi Conscription on the Firebore, and that means getting most of the instants out of opponent's deck is valuable. Surreal Memoir got back Spawning Breath and is potentially getting Big Heat Ray next turn, so that's important. I'm going to try to put the Conscription on now, because this looks to be the best time to do so. Spawning Breath isn't going to kill the Firebore, of course. And if our opponent has another good removal spell, like a Vendetta, then that's unfortunate, but can't really change it. Okay, that worked. Now, one thing that's kind of unfortunate is that our opponent can sacrifice Pawn of Ulamog and equip the token afterwards, but attacking with this is just too valuable. It's a 17 power Firebore, so it's just going to kill very, very quickly. It also has trample, so our opponent is already down to 5. We might be getting Spawning Breath here again. Yep, looks like that's what's happening. Don't know if these Eldrazi spawn are threatening to kill us or not. Surreal Memoir rebounds and our opponent gets back. Let's see. Heat Ray. So now there's a Heat Ray in his hand. This becomes a 17-11, so our opponent would have to deal 11 damage to kill it, which he is far away from. He has 8 lands and 10 mana sources. So yeah, and we can potentially just kill one of the Eldrazi spawn also, or yeah, both of our creatures deal with Eldrazi spawn. Okay, opponent also sacrificed the Cleaver, which I found interesting because I thought it would potentially offer a way to win here, but our control approach worked. It looks like our opponent is a lot more controlling than I first thought. I think that the Bloodpill Vampire is just not a good inclusion in his deck, but we have to respect Pawn of Ulamog and Ogre's Cleaver. Even though they aren't amazing cards, they are pretty good against us. So that's just something to keep in mind. Wrap in Flames could once again be a card that we want because of the amount of spawn tokens our opponent has shown. Cadaver Imp is fine, but I don't think we really want it, and I don't like the other cards enough to put them in our deck. Wrap in Flames could once again be traded for Keening Stone, although if the matchup really develops into a control game, then Keening Stone of course is valuable. Maybe I like Wrap in Flames better, given that he has the equipment, kind of like the option to get rid of a lot of Eldrazi spawn at the same time. Okay, let's try it like this. Okay, we are on the draw here, and this hand is pretty bad. We don't have the mana to support 3 of our cards, and then we only have Vendetta and Belaget Scorpion and a somewhat dead island. I think I'm going to mulligan this on the draw. Our deck should be able to support that. I like this hand a lot better. Let's see how things go. Our opponent has probably realized that we are playing a pretty clear control mirror here, so he might have boarded out some of the more aggressive cards. But Blood-Red Invoker is definitely a card I can get behind. Wrap in Flames deals 1 damage to each of up to 3 creatures. Yeah, so getting Blood-Red Invoker with Wrap in Flames is definitely valuable. On the other hand, we don't really want to take 3 here. I think I like Fork Bolting. Our life total is something that a black-red deck can actually attack pretty efficiently. So just getting rid of a 3-1 rather than trying to make some kind of value plays is definitely a good idea. And it looks like our opponent just doesn't have anything, so we should be very well set up to continue this game. I'm not going to run out Belaget Scorpion into nothing. I know it's unlikely that it's going to hit any of the creatures that might come down, but I'm not looking to win by attacking, at least not before Eldrazi Conscription comes online. So Ven Sentinel might be a problem for us. Does force us to be a bit quicker than we would otherwise have to be. But as long as it's only a single defender, it's not a problem. It does shoot damage equal to the number of defenders that our opponent controls. So if there is a second one, then it adds up really quickly. Okay, we drew a 6th land, so we can just run out the Boulderfoot. It might be the target of some kind of removal spell, but we need to get some offense going, and that's definitely a good start. It also has 4 power, so it gets through Vent Sentinel. Although having 3 power would almost be better, because then we could get our opponent with Wrap in Flames. So opponent has made a weird Eldrazi spawn token. I haven't seen that one before. It's definitely not one from the booster packs. Once again, he just spawning breathed us. Don't know if that's the smartest idea. And he's also opting not to level up this, which is a weird... Well, maybe he is, but it is a weird play, knowing that we have Forkbolt in hand. So yeah, definitely good to level that up, getting a 4/3 Death Touch in the process. We drew an uncastable Oust. That's unfortunate, but we can now Wrap in Flames the Cutthroat and Forkbolt it as well. And we deal 4 by attacking with the Boulder Foot this turn. I think the alternatives are actually pretty bad. And if we only attack with the Boulder Foot, we give our opponent quite a lot of options of just trading. And I kind of like being the aggressor in this board state. And we definitely want to keep our attacking creature because we have the Eldrazi conscription. I'm not going to answer that quite yet. Yeah, our deck shaped up pretty nicely. We can't really argue that. Now we continue to have our 4/5 here. Keep in mind that our opponent quote unquote wasted a spawning breath just to make sure that he could level the Cutthroat. So using 2 cards here to get rid of it isn't really all that bad from a value perspective. Also, we knew that there were potential spawn tokens in our opponent's future, but that just makes our Balagat Scorpion that much better. So the true question here is if we Narcolepsy the Vent Sentinel, but that does leave us quite exposed to something large that our opponent could have. So even though the Balagat Scorpion could get in for 2 damage, if we already played the Narcolepsy, I want to make sure that we aren't facing off something huge here next turn. Or, well, any turn really. We are reaching quite a lot of mana, so we only need 1 more to Eldrazi Conscription. If our opponent taps out, then we are definitely just slamming it on a Balagat Scorpion. But even if he doesn't, then we should still be pretty fine here. Don't know what we want to be ousting. Of course, in the best case, opponent just plays an Ulamox Crusher, which we then oust, and all his Eldrazi spawn are gone, and his board isn't really threatening. But there could be like too many cards in his hand to really make a good guess about what his next plays are. Okay, Cadaver Imp is going to get back either the Cutthroat or... Okay, no kind of Cutthroat, or the Blood Red Invoker, that was the alternative. Giving him a nice flyer, and then a potential Death Touch creature, which is kind of unfortunate with our Eldrazi Conscription plan, but I suppose we can't really complain too much here. We can also always oust or Narcolepsy his blocker, so... One thing that isn't a big problem, but is just true of the Eldrazi spawn, is that we are almost never safe to just use Eldrazi Conscription, because our opponent could always have something like a Heat Ray available. But playing Magma here makes me feel pretty good about our position. We can't sacrifice Prophetic Prism because we still need to cast Oust. But maybe we want to cast Oust next turn and then be able to sacrifice the Prism, even if it's just to get rid of something like Cadaver Imp. I also want to start attacking with Magma, but it's kind of difficult when the double block of Vent Sentinel and Embercool's Hatcher is still there, threatening us. Okay, we are taking one, so our opponent's clock is slowly increasing here. I don't want to shoot the Imp right now. I don't really want to use a 2/3 ground creature to do that. Kind of want to see what happens here. If we are just going to see the Death Touch level up creature, maybe. Oh, it looks like it's something bigger. Skittering Invasion, okay. So our opponent just wants to have a whole lot of Eldrazi, which is reasonable, I guess. But now if we draw a land, then we are in a really good shape, because we can make Balaget Scorpion large and get in there. Oh, that's not a land. Too bad. So Spawning Breath on Cadaver Imp is definitely a reasonable line, giving us another token to sacrifice to Magma. Yeah, I kind of like that. Going to do it right now. Now we could oust the Vent Sentinel to start attacking with Magma, or even the Balaget Scorpions as well. Let's see, trading the Scorpions for the Hatcher is kind of bad. But we have the Eldrazi spawn, which constitutes a free sacrifice in a certain way. We do want to save our removal. That's actually difficult. We are afraid of Nikana Cutthroat, but it only has 2 toughness. So if our opponent plays it, then we can kill it with 2 activations of Magma. So we don't need to save a removal spell for that. It's not really necessary. We could oust the Vent Sentinel and just get in with Magma, and then we still have all the removal we need. I think that's a better line, and it also means that we have used the Prophetic Prism for its most important use, basically. Okay, let's think this through once again. Attacking with both Scorpions means that the Hedgehog can block one, and then we trade a worthless Eldrazi spawn for Embercool's Hatcher. And if our opponent plays the Revenant, then we can still sacrifice the Prism. And yeah, no, I don't like wasting a permanent here. One card we have to be aware of is Hellion Eruption, which effectively turns every one of our opponent creatures into a 4/4 Hellion. Okay, and that's what he has. Yeah, so opponent would sacrifice all creatures he controls, and then gets that many 4/4 Hellions. What we are going to do is we're going to shoot those Eldrazi spawn. And I think that's pretty obvious why we're doing that. All of our creatures are basically worse than a 4/4, so we don't want these to hang around. Let's see, Balaget Scorpion is a 2/3 and Mnemonic Wall is an 0/4. Both don't really do much against 4/4s, but Belgate Scorpion might double block together with something else. So I'm going to get rid of Mnemonic Wall here. It's still a pretty good board on our opponent's side, but at least it's not unbeatable. Wow. That's huge. Opponent does have Ogre's Cleaver, but drawing all this dust here is pretty insane. I think we also just want to cast that this turn. Yeah, I think that's pretty clearly the play. And then we hope that we can outdraw our opponent in the sense that we can find a creature to put Eldrazi Conscription on, and that the Narcolepsy is sufficient to deal with what he's doing. Too bad that the Ogre's Cleaver stays in play. So let's see, what's the follow-up here? If it's just a large creature, then it's fine. It's actually a Vent Sentinel. That's kind of bad because it isn't really a threat and we can't Narcolepsy it. What we could do is Vendetta it, taking 4. But I think I'm going to wait at least one turn. We only take 1 by waiting. So that gives us vital information, hopefully. If our opponent doesn't have anything here, and it looks like that's the case, then we probably want to kill Vent Sentinel with the trigger on the stack, with the activate ability on the stack. Now that could backfire if our opponent draws better than we do and has the creatures he needs. So that Vent Sentinel is going to take a long time to deal the damage that we would deal ourselves with Vendetta. So I think it's correct to just let this slide and let it survive, basically. Okay, he's on the Spawning Breath Us plan again. Which means that holding back Vendetta was huge here. Okay, this is toughness, right? Okay, what we need to do here is draw any creature. That's not Totem Guide Heart Beast, because we don't have white mana right now. And then it has to survive whatever our opponent has. This is an interesting spot. We have a Tuk-Tuk, so we kind of want to put the Conscription on that. But it would also be fine to just put it on the 5/5, so I think we can risk attacking here. But if our opponent has the Heat Ray, then it's better to wait and not attack. If our opponent has Heat Ray and we try to Eldrazi Conscription, no, I think we still attack here. There's a very good chance that our opponent just lets this through, which is kind of the correct play anyway. And if he has a Heat Ray, then he would be forced, then he would probably block to just Heat Ray the 5/5 immediately. So the fact that this is not happening could mean that he just doesn't have something of that kind. Pawn of Ulamog once again. Maybe even equipping. Yep, looks like it. Okay, there's the Heart Beast, which we can't cast. So now it all comes down to Eldrazi Conscription, I think. Now, we do take 7, 8 next turn, going down to 4. If our opponent just decides to take 11 here, which is almost lethal, but not quite. But what is the alternative? If we just attack with this for 1, opponent might take it, but it's not really a given. We could Narcolepsy the Pawn of Ulamog. I think that's the alternative play. There is a third thing we could do, and that's just playing the conscription on Tuk and not attacking. But overall, I think that attacking is probably going to give us the best shot at winning here. It is Eldrazi conscription after all, so let's see if that works out. Okay, I had to pause the recording there real quick. What happened was that our opponent sacrificed a Swamp and a Vent Sentinel, took 11 from Tuk going down to 1, and now he still has his 7/2 Pawn of Ulamog. We are going to see what happens here. Now I think the most reasonable way to win on his part would just be to deal an additional 5 points of damage to us. Corpse Hedge is in his graveyard, so there might not be too many ways to deal with Tuk left in his deck. Induced Despair and Vendetta won't really cut it. So yeah, looks like we got it. Yeah, that's the match. Maybe I don't know. Playing with Magma is kind of difficult. We did if we had drawn the Heart Beast instead of Tuk, then it would have been really awkward because we wouldn't have been able to cast it. Not Vendettaing the Vent Sentinel turned out to be really huge because we would have taken 5 from the Eldrazi spawn and probably lost. So overall, yeah, and even this attack wasn't all that clear, I think. There's an argument to be made to just play it more defensively and hold back with the 11/11. Whew, yeah, that was a good deck on the opponent's side of the board as well. I like the black-red control deck, and he played Surreal Memoir in game 1, so we gotta give him credit for that. And I even correctly anticipated Hellion Eruption. All in all, pretty cool match. See you in the finals.